Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys. Before I move on to the labs, I wanted to show you, if you don't know anything about NMap, where you can go ahead and download it. Here's the link, okay? Also, if you want to download it, when you go to their site, which is this one here, make sure if you have Windows, go ahead and download it for Windows. If you have Linux, you'll download it for Linux. Or if you have Mac. Now, for Linux and Mac, you can go ahead and Google it or go to YouTube and see how to install it. Because right now I'll be doing it I already did it in Windows. So also you're gonna need the extension pack, which is this. I will show you how to install the extension pack afterwards. But right now, make sure you download the Windows host. Okay. So once you have downloaded the Windows host, as you can see, you can see if it works. Okay. So then to check to make sure that it works. For example, let's say I open up my command prompt. Normally, I open my command prompt as an admin, as you can see. So I want to check what version of Nmap I have, and even if I type Nmap, if it's not correctly installed, it will give me like not recognized or something like that. So you can see it does recognize it, and even if I type this, it's telling me the version, so that means it's working. Now, in case you happen to run into any issues, let me see if I can make this a bit bigger so you can there. So follow the instructions here, okay, to make sure that it's working. If it's not working, if it's giving you something, an error message or something, then go ahead and follow my instructions that you see here, so that you can make it work. Okay. I mean, you can stop, pause this video so you can look up all the steps. Okay. All right. Moving on. Let's say once you have it installed, I'll give you a few options that you can use when you have Nmap. So Nmap is a very powerful tool for network scanning and enumeration. It can be used to identify open ports, services, operating system, potential vulnerability in a target system or network. It's free and open source, powerful. You can find your hosts, OS and services, easy and flexible. Okay. So let's say after you have installed Nmap, one of the basic options that you can do to identify a target or network that you want to scan, you can do a single IP address or a range of IP addresses. Okay, so let's say for example, at the DOS prompt, let's say you can type the following. Okay, Nmap. Okay, so if I do it myself here, I mean, I don't think it's gonna work because that IP, that subnet, it's not part of my network, so it might not even find anything. So starting Nmap, okay, yada yada yada. Okay, so this it's running about blocking. See, so it didn't find anything because it doesn't exist. There's no subnet of 192.168 address. But just to give you an idea how it will work, a very simple one. Okay. Um, let's say if you choose to scan let's say several types, including TCP, UDP, SYN, and FIN. Okay, so a default scan for TCP SYN would be the following. Okay, it will look like this. Okay, so let's see if I can make so that you can, yeah, there you go. All right, so that's a SYN scan. Okay, so again, if I run it, if I were to run it in my computer, it won't work because I do not have that subnet in my network. Now another one, if you want to add options to the NMap, you can have several options. Um, for example, if you want to add to scan the open ports, right, to that SYN scan, you can do the following, which will look like this in your window command. So make it bigger. See, it's a SYN scan, but now we added ports from 1 to 100 and the IP address of your target, as you can see. Oops, that does not belong there. There we go. So moving on, and then you will get the results. I mean, this is just giving you a way for you to understand. Once we start doing the scan, the real scan, my network will be, my subnets are going to be in the 192 range. So that way we can, work with all this scan types. Okay, so right now I'm just trying to show you a way for you to begin to understand, the basics of NMap. So also the output of NMap can produce a lot of results. So you can save the output to a file for later analysis. So let's say if you want to add the results that you're scanning from, okay, you would do the following, okay. If you, let's say you want to analyze it later, it'll save it to a what you would call it, a text file. Okay, so this is what it will look like. Oops, let me make it bigger. Let's see. There we go. See, now that's the port. That's the SYN scan. Okay, the port from 1 to 100, right? And this is for you the option to save the file, and this is the name of the text file and the IP address of your target. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Once the scan is complete, you can analyze the output to identify potential vulnerabilities or misconfigurations. Look for open port, services, operating system information, potential vulnerabilities or weaknesses. Okay, so there's more tests that you can do. I mean, you can always go into the help guide, into the help or man pages, depending on if you're using Linux, and all, find out what else you can do. Also, when you install the NMap version that you downloaded, you will also have this graphical use interface, which it's great, but I think you will be better off running it from the command, because I believe when you do the CompTIA pen test plus test, the questions will be related with the command line interface. It could be in the command prompt for Windows or Linux. I'm not 100% sure which one, but it will be much better for you to know the scan types manually instead of using the GUI. This is you can do it after, once you know you master all this, you're able to master how to do it in the command line interface or the command line in Windows, in the terminal or command line. So either or. So I do recommend that you learn how to do it that way because it'll make your life easier. Now, a bit more advanced scans options that you can do. Um, let's say if you want to detect a, version and release number of the services running on open ports, it can be useful to identify known vulnerabilities in specific versions of software. So in order for you to do that, simply you will have to add the following, and I'll show you now. Okay, let me make that bigger. This is really small. Make it bold. There we go. So see, now you're doing the version detection. Okay. So well, I can't really run it because I don't have the subnet. So I'm just giving you samples here anyways. So let's say you want to detect the operating system, right? So now, let's say, take a wild guess, what you guys will have to do or input to detect the OS. You guessed it, -O. Now, this, it's not -0, it's capital O, okay? So don't confuse it with the 0, all right? Now, if you want to use, NMap has also scripts, I would recommend that you look up NMap scripts scanning because, I mean, maybe you might not run into those type of questions in Pentest Plus, but it's better to be prepared and be ready for anything. Okay, so the NMap has built-in scripting engine that allows you to run custom script against the target host. These scripts can perform various tasks such as vulnerability detection, service enumeration, and more. So let's see what can you add when you want to use an NMap script. So here's an example. Oops. And let's make it bigger and bold. See, NMap script, right? And the target. So let's say if you want to run an aggressive scan, if it's aggressive, you're going to be found out right away by the IDS. Probably the IPS might detect you, but it will not stop you. But the IDS will detect you. The IPS will prevent you. Sorry, I got it backwards. So if you do an aggressive scan, okay, this one includes also the OS detection, the version, okay, and script scanning. So this will perform a thorough scan of the target host or network. But like I said, it can be noisy and may trigger intrusion detection systems. So this is an example of that type of aggressive scan, which when we're doing pen testing, it's not recommended. See, so let me make that bigger. So you can add -SC-O, and that'll make it very noisy. So normally there are firewall evasion techniques. NMap offers several techniques for evading firewalls and intrusion detection systems. These techniques include fragmenting packets, timing. The techniques, you'll need to specify them using command line options. For example, to fragment packets, you would add F. Okay, and I would also recommend or advise you to look at fragmented packets or fragmented packet scanning. You know, it sounds, it's, if you're gonna do pen testing, you really need to know this. Okay, so here we go. See, that's -F. So it will fragment your packets. Okay. Also, you can have output options in NMap. It'll allow you to save the output of the scan in several different formats, including XML, graphable, which is something in Linux, and normal text. You can specify the output format using the -O option. Now, this is small letter O, not capital O. Okay, so followed by the name of the output file. For example, to save the output in XML format, you will type dash small letter O capital X output.xml through your nmap command. So let's take a look for an example. And oops, there we go. So this is already, we already know what type of scan we're doing, right? By looking at that, it's a SYN scan. Now the output is going to be an output, so that's small letter O, capital X, and the name of the file .xml, or it could be output.txt, whatever, and the target IP, right? Okay. So remember, guys, this is not the lab itself. I'm just showing you the type of scans that you can do in NMap. So that way, when it comes to doing the labs, you're going to be able to follow me. Okay. All right. So let's say you want to do a fast scan. And remember, fast, it's not something that we want to do as a pen tester. You need to have patience and work slow. Okay. Time for you, it's not really that precious, but the more time you have when you're doing pen testing, the better. So a fast scan option is a quick scan of the most common ports. It is useful for quick reconnaissance when you don't have a lot of time. Okay. So simply, if you want to run a fast scan, okay, you add the -F to your command. For example, okay, and here we go with the example to doing a fast scan. Okay, so let's see, make it bigger because I want you guys to see it. Okay, so there you go. So that represents fast. Make a note. The letter is not a small letter, it's a capital F, okay, as in Frank, and the target IP. Moving on, okay. Let's say another one, it's a timing option. So NMap offers several timing options that affect the speed and aggressiveness of the scan. The default timing is normal, but you can increase or decrease the timing using the -T option, followed by a number from 0 to 5, with 5 being the fastest and most aggressive. And this is not what we want. Remember, for example, to run a very fast scan, you can use the following. Okay, so I'll give you another example, but I said the slower the better, right? Because we don't want that company that we have permission from, okay, to find out that we're doing a scan. You're trying to be as stealthy as you can, and you don't want them to find out that you're scanning their web server, you're scanning their firewall, you name it. So, but also you need to have legal consent. Remember that. Cannot repeat myself enough. So anyways, this is your timing option. which is very fast. All right, moving on. Port range. Okay, so by default, NMap scans all 65,535 TCP ports on a target host. However, you can specify a range of ports to scan using the -P. Now, the -P will be small letter p, okay? Option followed by a range of ports. For example, if you only want to scan from port 1 to 1000, you can do the following. And once you see it, you get the idea, right? Right? So, you can specify whatever ports you want to scan. You get the idea, right? So this is C. P is for ports, and I think they made a mistake here because you need to have a space like that. There you go. So it's specifying the ports and from the number 1 to 1000 and the target. Okay, so let's see. A ping scan by default sends a TCP SYN packet to each port to determine if it is open. However, you can also perform a ping scan to determine which hosts are up on the network. Interesting. Okay, so to run a ping scan, you will use dash small letters SN, okay, like so. But see, there's a difference now, okay? And I want you to notice that difference. That now we have, okay, well, besides having this small letter N to do a ping scan, right? Now we have the CIDR notation. Now, if you don't know what that is, I would advise you to take a course in Cisco CCNA. You don't have to take the entire course. I don't know if they used to have ICND 1 and ICND 2 before. ICND 1 explains subnetting, CIDR, CIDR notation. But I would advise you to take some training on the subnetting, for your own good. Because I'm not going to take the time to explain it to you here. This is not the point that I'm doing this. All right, next one. Network scanning with NMap. This is another option, or is similar to the ping scan option, but it also performs a reverse DNS lookup. Oh, small letter S, capital P. So it does a DNS lookup to identify the host, well, reverse DNS lookup to identify the host names of the machines on the network. Interesting. To run a scan, use the dash small letter S, capital P option. So here's the example. Okay. Very interesting. See, let's make that bigger for you guys. So now it's doing a network scanning, and it'll at the same time it'll do a reverse DNS lookup. Okay, so it will show you the host names of the machines on the network that you're targeting. So that means it's scanning the whole range, all the way to 255. Okay, the same thing here. I forgot to mention that. That's what it's doing, because right here you have the target. It's already there. The target machine. It could be a 014, 015, 16, whatever. But this right here It's the entire range. I just didn't mention that. I mean, I just noticed it. Okay. So moving on. Now, IP fragmentation. Dash, small letter F as in Frank. By default, NMap sends packets with a maximum size of 1500 bytes. There's, if you know this, at layer 1, there's bits. Layer 2, bits, segments. No, bits, frames, packet, and segments. So layer 1, layer 2, it's frames. Layer 3, packets. Layer 4 is segments. Yeah, that's the way it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, so the IP fragmentation dash F sends packets with a maximum size of 1500 bytes. However, you can use the dash F option to fragment packets into smaller pieces, which can help bypass firewall and IDS. Wow. That may block large packets. For example, here's an example. So, we can fool the IDS and the firewall, which is, we need to train the firewall and the IDS a bit better, I think, if you're able to bypass it. So let's see, to do fragment on that system, on the target. Okay, when you're doing the scan, so you will fool the IDS and the firewall. Clever. Now, scanning IPv6. Okay, most of us, I would say, are not used to working with IPv6. I mean, I took a course on IPv6, but it was, let's say, more than 4 years ago. So I'm not really that good at IPv6. I think I should take a refresher course on that. And also at the same time, I do recommend taking a course, at least knowing how it works, the way that it's formatted. I can't really talk about it because I don't know much. So IPv6 scanning. NMap also supports IPv6 scanning. To scan an IPv6 address, simply use the address in brackets. Oh, wow, look. I mean, I think I know what that means. But sort of, kind of familiar with IPv6. If you're not, then I would advise you to do some training on that, because it is important. Since we are doing all this, it's yeah, definitely we have to do it. So let me see if I was to run this in my NMap. What do I get? Yeah, it didn't work. See, I ran it. I thought I was running it on my host, but it's not. Anyways, that's how you would scan. See, IPv6, right? All right. So moving on, now we're going to talk about a little bit about scripts, NMap scripts, also known as NSE scripts. So NMap scripts. So that way you guys know, right? This is what NMap scripts, also known as NSE scripts. These are powerful feature of NMap that allows you to automate and customize your scans. Oh wow! Let's see. For example, OS detection. The OS detection script uses various techniques to identify the operating system of the target machine. So we already spoke about the NMap-O, which is, I guess that's a script. So this one right here, NMap. I'm not gonna type it again. Okay. Let's see. So the OS detection script -O, that's a script. Okay, just don't forget it. Vulnerability scanning script. Okay, so this one right here, it's a vulnerability scanning script, DSV-SV. Now, a default script scan runs a set of common scripts against a target machine. So this one is a very common script right here, DSC. Okay. Now, if you want to do HTTP enumeration script, okay, enum script, that's what I call it for short. It would all be, let me see if a sample. If you want to run the script, an enum script, it would look like this, which is, I have not run it myself, but we're going to do that when it comes to the lab, so we can get familiar with it, you know. Very interesting if you want to run an enumeration script on a page, on a site. Okay, so this is a vulnerability scanning script. It uses fingerprinting techniques to identify the services and their versions running on the target machine. Oh wow. To run the script, okay, so is -s capital V. So that means if, let's say, if 192.168.0.1, it's a web server and it was vulnerable, it will show us these services running. Okay, cool. Now the default script scan. Okay, now this is different. This has a small letter S and capital C. Okay, this one is going to run a set of common scripts against the target machine. We're probably going to see that once we run it ourselves on the lab, but keep it in your pocket. Do not use it. Don't confuse it with the other one, with the I think we have it already. Oh yeah, it's the same thing. So this is a common scan, right? A default script scan, that's what it's called. Okay, so we'll see that when we go and do the lab. I think I spoke about that already. I think so. Deja vu. Okay, SMB enum script. Okay. So the script is used to gather information about Windows file shares and their contents. To run this script, use the -s-v option, followed by --script equal smb-enum. Well, most systems have been patched, so that vulnerability should not exist, but nevertheless, I should say, you need to try it, right? Because some people really don't do their job correctly, and they forget to patch some of their systems, and that's how they get hacked, right? I mean, it is unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And lastly, but not least, and not the last thing to do, DNS enum script. Okay, this script is used to gather info about DNS servers running on the target machine, if there's any, such as host names, IP addresses, and DNS record types. Wow. So to run the DNS enumeration script, here's the example, right? There we go. NMap. And you can see the whole option. right? To see, let's say, if you want to see the full list of scripts, you can run the command as following. I think this only would work in Linux. I don't think it'll work in Windows. Let me see. That is all if you want to see the list. Oops. Bold. Yeah. Yeah, this looks to me Linux. Yeah, definitely, but I don't think it'll work. No, it doesn't work. All right, moving on. How to scan multiple computers with NMap. See, you can do simply by separating them with the space. Okay, multiple. Let's say you have two targets that you want to scan, right? Scanning two targets, right? You'll do that. See, they're being separated by space, nothing more, right? Yep. All right. Okay. If you want to scan a range of IP addresses, okay, you will do the following. You would add a hyphen or a dash, whatever you call it. So, like so. So I'm hoping that you do get. Oops, how come it didn't go? Okay, so it's a NMap 192.168 starting at address 1 all the way to 10. So 192.168.0.2.0.3, 4, all the way up to 10. Okay, so I hope you do get that. And another one is scan multiple hosts using a file. This is interesting because you can create a text file, right, with a list of, I don't know, IP addresses. You can do a text file, right, and you can do it, in one column. I believe that's how you would do it. But this is the command that you will type with your text file, depending on where you placed it, and run the scan for the multiple hosts in that file. Okay. And let's say if you wanna, you can, there's a if you like to do things with PowerShell, using a text file, let's say, and with a range of IP addresses or computer names, you can run a script that will read the list of IP addresses or computer names from that text file, and then run the NMap scan on each target machine. So this is the way that it'll look if you run the script. Okay, so see, you have declared your variable here, which is your targets. You don't get the content of the txt file. It's gonna loop, through that text file, and it'll do the different scan options. Okay, so this one is the version, the ports, and from 1 to 665,535 ports on the targets, right? Okay, and this is where the it's gonna find the executable for NMap. Okay, so this is just a very brief, I'd say, explanation of NMap. I mean, it's really very powerful, guys. You can really do so many things. You can the NMap script scanning can be used to scan for vulnerabilities and security issues on a target system or network by using custom scripts and plugins. Okay. To do that, you use the dash small letter S capital C to run the default script scans, right? You can get packet crafting. NMap can be used to create and send custom network packets to a target system. Wow, you know. Uh, for example, if you want to do a network reconnaissance or security testing, you can do that, with the scripts, the NMap scripting engine. Let's say if you want to do a SYN scan, I already gave you the examples anyways, you can also do firewall evasion, like I said before, with the fragmentation, the dash F, and the SYN scan. So you can do a vulnerability assessment with the NMap. You can do a when you do the vulnerability assessment, you can do NMap script, and you can do a script name, the host, and then run it, the name of the script that you want to run, things like that. Here's an example of how you can do that. Okay. The vulnerability assessment, right? Let's see. I mean, there's so many options that you can pick from for NMap. Excuse me. In Kali Linux is not much different than what you have here, except you have to. I would recommend for you to be able to work or move your way around Linux, because it is very important. Now, here are some of the most basic options you should start learning with NMap. Okay, so it is very important that you do learn these options. These are your basic options that you have to know, you have to learn. Okay, so anyways, guys, until next time, this is what I wanted to bring up to you guys, so you can start managing and learning NMap. And I think I will go ahead and test my lab, make sure that everything is working. By the way, I think there's a way that we can install, if you have let's say a good amount of RAM, a good laptop or desktop with enough disk space, or if you have a spare key, let's say a USB key for more than 128 gigabytes, we can run either VMware Player or VirtualBox to install the images on that USB key, so that you won't have to get another server or another computer to run your images from there. But let me do a test, and I'll come back to you with the next video with those two options. Okay, so thank you guys, until next time.